Trying to be a good male mentor to your family it can be tough, man. It can be very frustrating. Unfortunately, there isn't a manual or a script that we are given once we become, husbands or fathers, anything like that. But what we can use is other men's experience. And so I'm going to share with you some key things that I try and implement in my family, and hopefully, at the end of this video, you guys will be able to implement some of those things as well. And basically, it's just to make sure that I'm giving it my all to my family, and that they become the people that we would like them to be, and that they feel loved, and that they have everything they need. So if this is something that interests you, stay tuned and we'll get right into it. Hey everybody, it's Michael A. Benton with michaelabenton.com, and on this channel I focus on helping men, achieve their desires and take control of their lives. So if you're a man looking to better himself, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. Mentoring, coaching, and teaching, that's a process learned through, repetition and mistakes and understanding and a whole lot more. And through my development, learning from master coaches and just, hearing the experiences of other men, I wanted to share some of the things that I try and implement in my family and share those with you. So without further ado, let's get into the first one. All right, so the first key that I think is important when it comes to being a mentor or a coach or a teacher to your family is to teach what you weren't, right? Teach what you had lacking when you grew up. So this brings me back to, how I was raised. And I want to preface this that my parents did everything under the sun to make sure that we, had a better life than how they were raised. Make sure that we had, food and clothes and education and all the things that we need to survive and to become the people that we are today. And so I'm very, very thankful. This is not a knock to my parents or anyone else's parents out there, but just relating back to my experiences, there were some things in our household that wasn't as abundant as maybe what you would find in other households. And so one of those examples would be the lack of affection. My dad was a military guy, and my parents, they just weren't the affectionate type, the lovey-dovey type, the hold your hands and to cuddle you and all that stuff. And so what I've realized in growing up is that, and actually getting into my own relationships, being married and having kids, what I realized is that my wife and my kids, they expect that. They expect affection, especially my wife. She likes to have her hand held when we go places, right? Or, to nuzzle up against her, or to cuddle up with her, and those types of things. And for me, it's kind of foreign. It's like, it's not the norm for me. And, that again, that was just how I was raised. And so as I was growing up, I figured that was just normal, and that's how, you operated. It wasn't until I got older and started really understanding life that that's not necessarily the case. And so what I preference to you is that, if you did in your life have a lack of affection or a lack of emotion, or a lack of love, or whatever it may be, teach your kids what you lacked, right? So I try and do my best to be affectionate towards my children and be affectionate towards my wife. It's not necessarily something that I actually want or need myself, but it's something that they want, and that's very important to me. So when you realize for yourself that your family is needing something from you, right, and you're not providing that for whatever reason, hopefully you see it as it's not a me thing, right? It's not about me, it's about them. And so regardless if I want to do it or like to do it, I definitely do my best to give them what it is that they lack, or what it is that I lack to give them. So teach them what you weren't, man. If you were, like I said, if you weren't taught to, say that you loved your parents or your siblings whenever you walked out of the door, and that's something that you want to implement now because you're aware, you understand how important that is, then do that. That's what you need to do. And so it's just about being better. My dad always had this phrase where he would say something to the lines of, as a father, you should be striving to be better than your previous father, right? So what he was saying to me was, I want you to be better than me, you know? I don't want you to make the same mistakes. I don't want you to, become me when you get older. Be yourself and do better, and teach your children to be better than you, and so on and so forth. And that's only going to, create a better society. It's only going to create a better household for your children. It's only going to create, better generations if we all did this in our households, right? And so, again, teach what you weren't, teach the things that you lacked in your life, things that you did want in your life, but you weren't getting them, teach those. Make sure that you are taking every opportunity to implement that towards your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, and your children, So that would be the first thing. The second key tip that I would tell you is to lead by example. Now, I'm a big proponent of this one. So I would never tell my family, my wife, or my kids to do something that I wouldn't do. It's just not in my nature. It's just not part of being a good mentor, being a good leader, right? If you are going to, if it's related to military terms, and you're going to tell your platoon or tell your squadron to, go into this house or kick this door down or go into this bunker, you better be damn well ready to go in yourself. You know what I mean? And I'm a big believer in that, especially with my children. I would never tell them to do something that I feel would put them in danger or harm's way, or anything like that. So, there was an example I had where, I had asked my kids to wipe down the walls. And this is something that I've never really asked them to do before. It was just, they were getting bored and I wanted them out of my hair. So I told them, I said, go scrub the walls. I mean, they were dirty. So, but told them to go scrub the walls. And, I thought for a second, I was like, well, instead of just telling them to go do it, let me show them, right? Let me do a couple walls with them, and then they can take it over. So that's what I did. I took the water and the soap, and I said, okay, I'm gonna scrub, and then the person behind me, you're gonna wipe down with the dry towel. And so we did a couple walls like that. And as I was talking to them, I was sharing the same message that I'm sharing with you, is that don't ever tell someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. So just be cognizant of that. Don't send your kids underneath the house where all the snakes and bugs are if you're not willing to go into there, because I know damn well I'm not willing to go under the house. That's just not me. So, and then I will also say to, direct them to do the right thing. And in order for that to be true, in order for that to be a reality, you have to do the right thing first. You know what I mean? And so, if you're telling your kids to, be respectful and, to their elders or whatever, but then they see you being disrespectful to a stranger at a grocery store, or being disrespectful to your own parents, or even being disrespectful to them or their mother, it's not going to go over well with them, because they're going to see two sides of you. They're going to see one side where you're saying one thing, but you're doing another. And you don't want to create that type of confusion for them. And so you want to be consistent, so live by your word, man. You know what I mean? So if you want to teach them to do the right things, you need to be showing them how to do the right things. You can't, my daughter, and I've done this, and my daughter is about to be driving, right? She's going to be 16 in August. And so I let her drive my truck sometimes, and I'll sit in the passenger seat. And I think one time I might have had a beer or something that we were, I don't know, either picked up from the house or we went to the store or whatever, but I was drinking the beer in the passenger seat while she was driving. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'm not setting a good example, right? Because even though I'm not driving, I just didn't feel that I should be drinking and driving, I guess, with my daughter. It just kind of felt bad. And so I knew at that moment that was not a good example for me to set. So that's what I'm talking about, is make sure that you're setting good examples, right? Be respectful, be courteous, show your wife. My son, he's only 7, but I want him to have a memory when he grows up of how I treated his mother. And I want him to see that, I showed her kindness, and that we played around with each other, and that we laughed and we giggled, right? And that I showed her affection and that I was compassionate and I listened to her. Like, I want him to see kind of all those things, because believe it or not, you're molding your children right now. You know what I mean? And as you know, they're like sponges, right? They take in everything that they see and they hear and they touch and they smell. And so make sure that you're doing the right things by them, so that way later in life, there isn't this conversation of, well, I saw you, you would always, hit my mom or whatever, so I just thought that was the right thing to do. I thought that was how you treated a woman. Or if it was your daughter now having that conversation with you, and now she's attracted to guys who are more physical and maybe more verbally abusive to her, because that's how she was raised, that's what she was used to, And so we're setting our children up for failure by not setting a great example, by not doing the right thing as a male in the household. So make sure you're leading by example, and make sure you're doing the right thing to direct them towards the direction that you want them, or you would like for them to take as they become adults. So, and my third tip I would say to you is to listen with intent. Now, this is huge, especially for women in our lives, because they want to be listened to, right? They want to be heard. And so I would say that you listen with intent, especially when you're talking to your spouse or your girlfriend. When you're able to listen to your children or your spouse, it really gives you as the man a better understanding of who they are, right? On a really deeper level, because you find out things that you may not have observed on your own, right? And so I think it's very important that we take the time to understand our children, understand our wives, and listen to them. And we don't necessarily have to respond. A lot of the time, at least early on in my marriage, I would always, try to interpret what she was saying or what her next word was going to be, and I wasn't really listening with intent. I don't know what I was doing, right? And so as I became to understand her more, and really became to understand how one communicates with another person, it was to listen with intent. And so, sometimes when I have conversations with my wife, I don't say anything. I just let her go on, and I nod, right? And I say, okay, stuff like that, just to let her know that I'm coherent, right? I'm paying attention to her. But I let her ask me, okay, what do you think? What are your thoughts? I let her finish, and so that way she can fully, be heard, and that way she can get her point across, or whatever it is that she's communicating with me about. But I like to listen to really understand, because like I said, I don't know everything. I don't know how to be the best husband. I don't know how to be the best father. These are things that I'm learning from other people, learning from other coaches, other fathers and other husbands, and I'm trying to do my part in implementing these things in my family, in my house, to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can. You know what I mean? And so, and that I'm not lacking in any of the areas. And so, listening is a big part of that. And then also too is another thing when you're listening is at the end is to ask, what can you do? What can I do to help? It's it just shows empathy for your family member, and it shows that you are truly with them, and that you truly want them to be okay, and that you're here to help. So I always ask, at least I try to ask, what is it that I can do? How can I help? Sometimes, you're going to get, there's something you can do. I just wanted you to listen, you know what I mean? And that's okay. Sometimes they're going to give you direction on what you can do. And if you offer, you better be ready to step up to the plate to commit to whatever it is that they ask you to do. You know what I mean? And so listening is a big part of having a better understanding with every member of your family, and getting to know them on a deeper level. So that would be my third tip there for you. All right, and then the fourth key tip I have there for you is to admit when you're wrong. Now, this is big. This is really huge for men, because Mr. Ego gets in the way, right? And we try to show our bravado. Your family doesn't care about your bravado. That's a you thing. Make this about them, not you. So when you're wrong about something, admit it. You're showing your family that when you admit something, you're showing them that you have compassion, right? And that you are sorry for whatever it is that you were wrong about, and it shows that you have feelings and that you care about theirs. There's numerous occasions where I've blamed my daughter for something that I thought she may have did, and I was wrong about it, and I didn't go back and I apologized to her. I think how I would respond now that I'm thinking about it would be like, "Oh, my bad," or something like that. And to her, it's like, well, damn, you can just blame me for anything. Like, aren't you gonna admit, you were wrong? And so for me, that wasn't. I let my ego get in the way. I didn't want to be the guy who had to backtrack on his word or whatever I said, and to look bad. And I was only in front of my family. So take the ego out of it. Make sure that you are admitting when you're wrong, because again, you're building character in your children and in your wife, and it shows that you have feelings, that you have compassion and understanding, and that you taking their feelings into consideration. So again, admit when you're wrong. Don't be shy. Don't be the shy guy who's afraid of saying they're sorry, or that they made a mistake. It happens. Learn from it. Move on. All right, so comment below and tell me, what is one thing that you would like to do better for your family? All right, and then my fifth, key idea or tip there for you is to be honest and be truthful. Now, there's a difference between honest and truthful. Honest is, when you're not telling lies, right? And truthful is when you're telling the whole truth, right? You're not leaving out anything. And I think this is another big one for men too, because as a father, as a husband, it's kind of an innate feeling for us to demand that people be truthful to us, that people be honest to us, especially family members. You're always telling your kids, you better tell me the truth or else. You know what I mean? And so it only works if you're going both ways. You know what I mean? So if you're asking for your children or your spouse to be upfront and honest and truthful with you, then you better be doing the same thing when it comes time for you to be in that position to tell the truth and be honest. Because again, you're going to receive opposite actions, opposite results of what you're intending, if you're asking them to tell you the truth, but yet you're lying about whatever it is that you're lying about. You know what I mean? So be honest, be truthful, and as they say, keep it 100. You know what I mean? And we're all gonna make mistakes, and the key thing about making mistakes is that we can learn from them, and that it helps us grow as a person, and it builds character, and it allows us to reach success much faster the more mistakes we make. But at least you're being honest and truthful in what it is that you've done or whatever the circumstance may be. And that honesty, that truthfulness, if you have that in your household, there is nothing that your kids, for the most part, nothing that your kids or your wife, won't tell you. You know what I mean? And so, again, I have a 15-year-old daughter, so I can be as truthful and honest with her as possible, but I'm sure there's some things that she wouldn't tell me regarding her young life, and I understand that. But what I'm generally talking about is just making sure that you have open communication, open honesty, and trust within your household. Because if everyone's lying to each other about everything and no one's honest, that's gonna be one crazy household, right? Where it's just lies upon lies, and you can't trust anyone. And if you can't trust the people that you live with, y'all really got a problem. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure that you nip that in the butt, and that and make sure that you have that honesty and that trust in your household. Otherwise, what else do you have? All right, and then my number 6, key idea or tip there for you is to praise them. Praise them, praise them, praise them, right? So I did this yesterday, where my wife had texted me a couple of days ago and told me that our daughter Amaya had made her dinner, and her aunt dinner, and I thought that was really nice. So I texted my daughter and I said, great job on making dinner for your mom and your aunt. That was truly thoughtful of you. I said, that's the type of woman that I know you could be. I was really just building her character, building her confidence, and praising her for doing something good, because Lord knows, men, especially myself, fathers included, we're quick to jump on our kids and our spouse on things that they didn't do well, right? So, and we already know the results of that, right? When you jump on your kid or your spouse for not doing something well, it always backfires. My daughter, she will storm into a room and slam the door. She won't talk to me. My son, he'll get mad if I tell him what he did wrong. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be jumping on your kids for doing stuff wrong. You absolutely should. But what I'm saying is it needs to be 50-50, right? It can't be 100% of you always nagging on your kids, telling them what they're not doing right, or your spouse what she's not doing right. When they do things right, you have to praise them for that. It's only fair, right? You don't want someone coming to your boss saying, man, you suck at this. You keep getting this wrong, and you keep doing this wrong. You can't, after a while it wears on you, right? And then you just want to walk out, or you want to quit, or you want to snap on the guy or the girl. You know what I mean? So that's the same exact way that your family is feeling when you jump on them. So so help them, boost their confidence, give them praise and boost their character, and let them know, man, you did a great job washing the dishes. You did a great job taking out the trash when I didn't have to tell you. Awesome. That's what I like. Because what I found out, it's kind of like reverse psychology. It's like, without saying anything, like when you praise your family for doing something good, I don't know if it's like an automatic thing in their head, but they're like, you do it enough times, they tend to get it quicker, right? They tend to understand faster, and it's like, okay, so if I do some good stuff, dad gets me ice cream, or dad does nice things for me, or people say nice things to me when I do good things, right? So then it kind of creates like this I don't know, this type of feeling inside, this emotion inside them that, okay, in order for me to if I want to feel happy or joyful or excited or whatever, then I know I need to do something good for someone, something like that. It just creates a more positive effect than nagging on them does, right? And so you want to boost their confidence and boost their character. And again, this is going to help your children and your wife become better, right? Not only for you, just for themselves, and for the whole household. And I want my kids to have as much confidence, and I want them to have as much character about themselves as they possibly can, and so I'm going to give them, the negative side to help them address whatever it is that they did wrong, or that they don't understand. And I'm also going to give them the positive side, the confidence that they need, and the praise to let them know that, man, you did a good ass job on this, great job on getting an A on your test. Or to my wife, great job for taking care of the kids and getting dinner made while I was out at work or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think that we just need to, as men, praise our family more, give them more of that positivity. Because if you think about it, man, like I said, positivity flows, you know what I mean? And I think the more positivity that you spread in your household, the more they want to do good things, right? And you'll be surprised at how that will help turn around if you have children that, maybe are disobedient, or anything like that don't listen. Give them that positive feedback, and I think you'll see a big turnaround, a big difference in their character, in their performance, right, at home. So that would be my number 6 there for you. All right, and then my 7th and final key tip or idea there for you is to give space for growth. You gotta understand, man, like, look back on your life, right? Look back as to when you were a child. You didn't know everything. You didn't know how to do everything. You made mistakes. You messed up. You know what I mean? But you eventually grew up, right? And you learned from those mistakes, and you became to fully understand things differently as you progress from a young teen to a young adult to a full-on adult, in the working society. And so you have to allow for growth in your household. You can't expect them to, and this goes for your children and your spouse, you can't expect for them as the man to get it right every time and to be 100% all the time. They're not you. That's what you guys need to understand. As males, we try to, most of us anyway, we try to contain the situation, right? We try to be in control of everything, right? For the most part. And we have to understand that you can't control everything. You know what I mean? And no one is going to be you, and you can't be anyone else. So if you're perfect, as a male, and you do everything right and you have 100% energy, you can't get on your kids or your spouse because they're not 100% perfect or right, or they have all this energy to do all these things. You have to fully embrace who your family is. So don't get on your kid if you find him, not all the time, but playing video games all the time, or maybe he's on the phone talking to his friends all the time, right? Or he's doing things that you're not necessarily into, that he's into, building cars or something, you know what I mean? Or playing with Legos and building stuff. Like, let the dude be him, you know what I mean? He's not you. And I can kind of see myself where it's like, I'm kind of the energetic, at times person, and my daughter's so laid back and chill, and I'm just like, yo, like, let's get up, go do something. You need to do more. And it's just like, all right, pump your brakes. You know what I mean? She's not me, and that's okay. So allow for mistakes, allow for understanding. You know what I mean? And really understand that you as the father, you as the male in the house, you can't do it for them. You have to let them do it on their own. And everything can't be done your way. My wife folds clothes so differently than me. Like, she gets very, very mad at me when I fold the way I fold towels. And I'm like, it's a towel. Like, it's going in a cupboard. Like, who cares? But no, she has a particular way about doing it. So it is what it is. When she folds clothes, she folds them the way she folds them. When I fold clothes, I fold them the way I fold them. Hey, the job got done, so I don't make a big deal about it. So it's just, it is what it is. But you need to allow space for them to, whatever you're trying to teach them, whatever lesson you're trying to get across to your kids or your spouse, allow them time to interpret it, allow them time to understand it, allow them time to visualize it, allow them time to take action upon it and make mistakes and learn from it. And I think that if you allow your family to the space they need to become the people that they want to become, it's only going to make you guys that much closer, right? And it's only going to allow each person in the house to be the individual person that they want to be. No one has to be the same, you know what I mean? And by you doing that as a father, as a male in the household, you're encouraging your kids to have confidence. You're encouraging your wife to have character and confidence in herself. You know what I mean? And so, you just gotta step back and be ready to be there when things fall apart, if they fall apart, or if they need your assistance or whatever. But sit back and just let them try and figure it out. Because, like I said, when you were growing up, or even now, you don't have everything figured out. It was a trial and error, right? Or you ask questions and things like that. So those are my 7 keys that I would say is going to help you become a good mentor to your family. And and I think a lot of these things, they kind of get overlooked because, again, we get sucked into life, and you kind of just go, right? And I know exactly for me, all these key things that I'm telling you, I don't necessarily implement all of them. I want to. Like, I do absolutely try to do that. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes, especially as a father. Early on, I made mistakes as a husband, and the only thing that I can do is to, like I said before, is to learn from my mistakes, try and have better understanding of what it is that I'm not doing enough of, and what it is that I'm currently doing that I shouldn't be, and pass those along to you guys, so that way you can have a starting point where I didn't. You know what I mean? You don't have to make all the mistakes and go through the trials and tribulations that I have. You can, especially if you're a new father, you know what I mean? You can, here's your 7 keys, implement these, and you can start off on a good clean slate. So I just try to communicate the things that I see in my own household, things that I learned from my friends who are fathers and who are husbands, and pass those along, and hopefully you're able to implement these into your family, and it makes you guys that much more tighter. It brings unity to your family, and love and respect, and hopefully, imagine if every man who had a family could or would be implementing not only these key ideas that I'm talking about, but just the general values, right? The general values of a good person. Imagine if everyone taught their children to be respectful to everyone, to be kind, to be courteous, to show empathy, to show sympathy, right? To be compassionate for others and their feelings and what they're going through. It'd be a totally different place. All right, so those are my 7 key ideas, my 7 key tips there for you. And like I said, hopefully they serve you well in your family, and I would love to hear some feedback on which ones you really want to implement and which ones you maybe currently are implementing in your current life. You know, trying to be a better man, you know, a better father, a better husband, you know, a better person in general, you know, that takes some accountability, right? And that takes some understanding as to know, you know, where are you lacking at? What areas of your life could you be improving? Whether it was in your, you know, in your marriage, or if it was in your relationship with your kids, or if it was just personal things with yourself. And that's totally what I'm here for. And so I would urge you, if that's you, I would love for you to click the link in the description below to schedule a free discovery call with myself. And basically, this is a call where we can just talk about some of the areas that you are wanting to improve, and what goals and accomplishments you have for yourself. What is stopping you or maybe stopping you from achieving those things, and then what steps do we need to take to get you to reach fulfillment, to achieve the things that you want. And again, so I would urge you to click the link in the description below to schedule that now, and let's get you on the right path. All right, so be sure to check out these next videos to continue building on becoming the man you want to be. And if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.